Dear friends, I'm very pleased to start our anniversary 10th webinar with a very exciting topic. So today we'll have the opportunity to improve our public speaking skills and presentation skills and learn how to sell your research or idea fast and efficiently. So this webinar is also the start of our very exciting super event, Pitch Me Your Idea. I hope you've seen the advertisements. I hope today's presentations will spark some new ideas for you on how to pitch your idea or research with some impact. And remember, there's a limited number of places available, so act fast. Now we have a poll open here in WebEx, so if you don't see it already, click on the bottom right. You have the chat button, and next to it the panel options. You can open the poll there and answer those funny questions. Yes. I will give the stage next to Nicolas, who will present more details about the event and also the other latest news from the Young Ceramist Network. Go ahead, Nicolas.
Thanks, Erka. So hello, everyone. We are very pleased to meet you, all of you together today. So I will first share my presentation. Yeah. Oh. So before this very interesting webinar, I will take a few minutes of your time to present a bit the activities of the YCN, the previous activities and the future ones. So as people who may not know, the YCN is it's a non-profit network which aims to bring all together young students and professionals currently doing research on ceramics. It's an initiative of the European Ceramic Society. So typically we receive funding from the ESERS and the Jack Trust to organize activities for the young researchers. And in order to do that, there is an executive committee composed of 5 young researchers. We are supervised by both Anders Korsnan, who is the head of Young Ceramist and Training Working Group at ESERS, and Veronique Urat, the ESERS administrative officer. So typically, the YCN wants to provide a platform to build your own network or professional network by helping you to attend professional events, make you contacts, form links with other young researchers and also the industry. You can benefit from these events and these activities to exchange ideas and also work experience. You can get information about funding and job opportunities. And the main goal is always to promote research and innovation in the field of ceramics to the young people. So you can find on our website this great map of the YCN. So we are really proud of this map because you can see typically all the places in the world where young researchers are doing research on ceramics and maybe create some new collaborations to see on the map. So if your institution is not already on this map, do not hesitate to send us the location, and we'll be very pleased to add it on this great map. We are also very present on social media with more than 800 members now on LinkedIn. Also on Facebook, we are almost reaching the 1,000 members now, so we need to push a bit, but we're almost there. And this is a great opportunity, a great community to share a lot of information like job opportunities, also different conferences. You can also ask people if you are looking for some equipment. You can ask in this group and maybe find a new collaboration and go somewhere in some place to make some experiments and improve your research. So it's a tool for you. Do not hesitate to use it. We're also very present on Twitter and Instagram to be present for the almost everywhere for the young generation. The YCN also organized a newsletter, which is read by 11,000 people through the database of the European Ceramic Society. And this newsletter is a strong tool to advertise and to give some visibility to some researchers, like with this section, research and industry in the spot, we like to highlight the work of some researchers in academia, but also in industry, and it's a very good opportunity for them. So also, if you are interested by this opportunity of publishing on the newsletter, do not hesitate to send us your contribution. Last year, for example, we received 30 contributions for different countries, or also from the US, from Asia. So it's a very nice opportunities for these young researchers. So thanks again to them for their contributions. We also organized a photo contest. We received more than 20 micrographs for this nice contest with a lot of colors, as you can see. And we congratulate again the three winners that received some prize. And the winner is now the picture cover of the Facebook group. So it's a very nice opportunity to get some visibility. And congratulations again to them, and thank you for your contributions. We just finished also our special issue in Open Ceramics dedicated to young researchers called Young Ceramists in the Spotlight. We received more than 70 submissions. It's a very high number of submitted paper. We would like to thank you again for this trust you gave to us. And once all the paper will be processed, we will give the best paper award to someone. So keep in touch, and we will announce this very soon. So now it's time for a webinar. So it's already our 10th webinar. We started in November with Professor Richard Todd. And since then we received 19 speakers, and we had more than 500 participants in all the webinars. So it's a great number of participants. Thank you also again for this presence. We had the opportunity to welcome different speakers of different topics, joining academia and industry, speakers from Asia, America, and Europe mainly. And we also had the chance to mix different interconnected networks, like, for example, the American Society and the International Year in this webinar. So thank you again for these contributions. It's a great opportunity. We will, of course, continue after this 10th first webinars to organize some. So we have the chance also previously in this month to receive the former president of European Ceramic Society and Christian Mayer for this very nice webinar about the career, the future career after the PhD. But today is the time to have this great webinar about the art of public speaking to improve your speaking skills and presentation skills with two great speakers, Marco Rochette from Spreekmeester in the Netherlands and Professor Julie Kerr-Conte from the University of Lille. So we are very honored and happy to be there here with them today. So I will let the stage to them now. And as Erga said, this webinar is part of a bigger event which will take place in June. Pitch Me Your idea. Some young researcher will have the opportunity to pitch during 5 minutes to sell their idea research to the jury to be able to win some prizes. It's a very nice prizes because they can get also money, of course, but also free registrations to the main ESERS event in Krakow next year. So it's a great opportunity for the young people. And the deadline is next Friday, so do not hesitate to register as soon as possible if you're interested. You can also join the event without pitching to see this great event. So we will have also the chance to receive two invited speakers, Dr. Peter Mitchell, a CV expert, that will give some tips about how you make a good CV. And also Professor Paula Villarino from the University of Aveiro will have a talk about the philosophy of success in research. So we can't wait to meet you all there in this great event that will be held in Gathertown, this great platform to. It's not like a real conference, but it's close. It's close, so we have the chance to keep in touch all together in this event. So to finish, I will just say, do not hesitate to join us on the different social media to reach the Young Ceramist Network and to share your thoughts and to create new collaborations and friendships. So now, just before the start of the webinar, I will remind you that you can ask some questions to the speakers and in the chat section. But do not forget to put the everyone when you want to send a message like this. Everyone can see your question, and we will be able to ask them to the speakers at the end of the talk. So thank you again for your presence today, and let's enjoy this great webinar.
Thank you, Nicolas. So I also advise you when the presentation start, you can change the experience by clicking the layout button in the right upper corner. So to change how you see the slides and the presenter. So please use that and then as you. But without further ado, let's start the webinar with our first speaker. So to introduce him, in the last decade, Marco Rochette has trained, coached, and directed hundreds of people. With his background as copywriter for advertising and screenwriter for TV shows, combined with his work as theater director, telling and audience engagement is in his blood. With his entertaining style of coaching, he creates a safe environment for everyone to learn and to become a better speaker. So with these forewords, I would like to welcome our speech coach, Marco, with the title Pitch to Get Funded. Please, Marco, the stage is.
There you go. Thank you very much, Erica. I'll share the slides now. Hang on. There we go. Pitch to get funded. Well, it's interesting to hear something you wrote yourself, but someone else is talking about you. So thank you very much for that nice introduction. Let me start with a question for everyone listening. Write it down in the chat. How many words do you think will fit in a 5-minute pitch? So can I see? Hang on, I have to check this. Where is the chat?
Yes, so the chat button is in the bottom right corner. Participants and chat.
Well, but I'm sharing the screen, so it's a different place. So please write it down. How many words do you think is in a 5-minute pitch? Is it 500 words? Is it 5,000 words? Is it 100? Answers coming in: 300, 500, 250. 800, 1,000 words, 500. Oh, you're good guessers. Oh, nice. 1,000. Sorry, 10,000. That's nice. 1,500, 300. That's nice. Very good. Well, thank you. And the funny thing is that the average speaking pace of an adult person is somewhere around 160 and 170 words per minute. If you're a little bit enthusiastic and more energetic, then it's going up to 200 words a minute, but always around 160, 170 words per minute. Newsreaders on TV will be a little bit slower because I want people to really understand what they're saying. So it's going to be like 140, 150 words a minute. Now, for those of you who've done the math, and there it is, it's somewhere between 700 and 750 words total in a 5-minute pitch. Is that a lot of words? Well, this is how it looks. It's 1.5 if you're a little bit fast speaker, and it's 2 pages, but that's it. That doesn't mean that's not a lot of words, right? So it has a few consequences you should realize, and that is you have to be concise. You have to be low on detail, not too much detail. Yes, detail, but not too much. You have to choose your words wisely. Those are important things to remind yourself in advance. Only 750 words. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about pitching and pitching to get funded. That's a very specific way of a pitch. Not for investors if you want to start a company. There are some changes you want to do in your pitch and add some extra information. If you really want that, ask the question and I'll answer it at the end. But this one is specifically for funding. 3 steps to create your pitch. First, you design your story and your core message. Then you create your pitch with a pitch outline, and then you connect with your voice, body, and slides. But first, before we start, I like to talk about something I call the pitch mindset. Now, a pitch is a presentation, but it's a special kind of presentation. And if you're nervous for any presentation, you'll be even more nervous for a pitch. And that's fine. That's how it works. But there are a few things you should consider before writing a pitch or creating a pitch or designing a pitch. And one of the most important things is that a pitch is always a starting point of a conversation. No one's going to give you money on base of a pitch. Your goal of a pitch is always to go to the next meeting. And the next meeting will be where you have a longer time to present your research or your product or your technology. Maybe you'll start negotiations or anything else. But a pitch is where you start the conversation. No one's going to give it straight ahead. Every presentation is about your audience, but a pitch especially is about your audience. Why? Well, normally what we do when we present, or especially when we pitch, is we think about, okay, what is it that I want to say? All right, I only have 750 words, so I have to tell this, and I have to say this, and this, and this, and this. But I'm only thinking about me. What I should do should be thinking about my audience. What do they want to hear? Or why should they care? They're not going to give you money for free. They want to get something in return. So what's in it for them? And it's very good to realize from the get-go when you're creating a pitch, designing a pitch, to realize what's in it for them. Why should they care? Why should they listen to me? It's a very important question. And I know for a lot of scientists, this is a little bit of, well, we have a sales department in the company we work, or where I work at a university, and sales, it's a little bit of a dirty word, but you're selling something. You're selling your idea. You're selling you and your team. I'll get to that in a minute. You people want something in return. You can be an obnoxious salesperson, but I can assure you that doesn't work. But you also can be the nice salesperson. But remind yourself, all right, I'm selling something. So don't be shy in doing that. Another nice thing to remind yourself up front is that you are the expert and your audience isn't. Even if you're talking to people in your own field of expertise, even if they're on a department, they will not have the same level of knowledge that you have of your own project or your own research. You are the only one who has that. So as a consequence, you have to simplify your language. You have to take into account that maybe people you're going to present a pitch to are non-scientists and they'll have no idea what you're talking about. So try to skip any vague scientific lingo in which in front you think, are they going to understand this? Yes or no? If you're going to ask that yourself and the answer is no, don't do it. It's that simple. And choose your words wisely. I already said it, 750 words means you have to choose your words wisely. Make sure that every word counts. That's really important. There's only a limited amount of time. And if you're in a pitching contest and someone's really paying attention to the time, you're not allowed to go in 6 minutes or 7 minutes or in 10 minutes. You're cut off at 5 minutes and that's it. And you lose a big opportunity. So choose wisely. All right, let's go to the 3 steps to create the pitch. Design your story and your core message. Create it with a pitch outline and voice, body, and slides. Story. The structure of every story is a beginning, a middle, and an end. I know it's obvious, but that's it. There isn't actually any other structure. I could go on the entire afternoon about storytelling, but Erica just gave me 25 minutes, so I won't do that. Maybe another time, it'll be interesting. The structure of a story, the introduction of a hero, a lot of stuff is going on. There's a lot of complications and struggles. There's a climax, and a conflict will be resolved, and they live happily ever after, or not. That's a structure of every story. So how do you use this? Randy Olson wrote a really nice book. I used to, we have a narrative, and he developed the basics of a story, and he called it the ABT method of storytelling. And ABT stands for and, but, and therefore. I'll explain it. What he figured out was something called a narrative spectrum. The AAA, the ABT, and the DHY. And there's a non-narrative, and there's the only narrative, and of course, there's a perfect narrative. And let's start with the boring one, the non-narrative. You can remind yourself that, or think when you were a kid, when you went to school, your mom would ask when you come home, like, so how was your day? And he would go, oh yes, and then we went to the playground, and then we did some playing, and then we played with that one, and then we did this, and then we did that. It's and. That's not a story. That's just summing up facts. Unfortunately, a lot of scientific presentations are like that, just summing up facts. That's not a story. Nice to tell maybe that why is storytelling that important. I think Julie will go into that into deeper. But when you talk to people, there are a few sections of your brain that will be activated. When you tell a story, a lot of things in your brain, it will be activated. The sensory cortex, the motor cortex. So it lights really, if you would show an image of your brain, everything will light up like a sort of Christmas tree. The AAA doesn't. On the other hand, you have the overly narrative, the despite, however, yet. And I think you all heard someone speak like that. They start some story or some narrative, and then it goes despite, but however, but yet. And somewhere along the way, you lose what the main storyline is. Somewhere along, you think, hang on, what were they talking about? There are TV shows. Lost comes to mind, which is a TV show, which somewhere around season 4, you would think, what was it about again? That's the overly narrative. That doesn't work either. So it leaves the one in the middle, obviously, the interesting and, but, and therefore. So how does it work? And actually connects all those different parts that you're doing, but creates tension, conflict, and conflict is the basis of any narrative, and therefore is a word that gives you a resolution, a conclusion, maybe. So let's give a small example. We did this research, and what we tried to find out was this, and we did this and this, and we found this data, and we did this data. But then we found some complications, and we tried to figure it out, blah, blah, blah. Therefore, we tried it this way, and we have this solution. That's in basic, this tool for creating a basic story and your core message, and, but, therefore. Now you do this before, my advice at least, before you start creating your pitch. Why? Because this is your basic story. Anything from here, you have this. This is what you want. This is the pitch of your pitch, to be precise. If someone would ask, oh, you went to the pitch of so-and-so, what was it about? They would say, oh, well, they did this and this, and but this and this happened, and therefore they're going to do that and that. It's easy to remember. Very powerful tool to do that. Step 2, the pitch outline. A little bit small letters, don't worry about it. I'll dive into deeper. This is the structure, how you use your pitch. Step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. So the first thing you start with is what change are you going to make about your project, your research, whatever it is that you're doing. What change are you and your project going to make in the world? A clear and memorable one-sentence statement. As an exercise, try to write it as a Twitter-friendly headline, 144 characters. This is the hook. This is what gets people, where you're reeling people in, and you get them to interested in your story. And a one sentence is really a one sentence. It's not one sentence, comma, and a sentence, and a comma, and a sentence. No, it's just one sentence, clear and memorable. Then you start describing what is the problem that you are going to solve. Try to avoid any abstractions or obvious statements. Obvious statement would be, we all know that cancer is a very big problem in the world, or hunger is a very big problem in the world. Yes, we know. There are already 6 words that are lost from your 750 words. Don't do that. Try to figure out so how many people need the problem solved. And what is the result, the consequence of that problem? So be very precise in what you do here, how you describe the specific problem. Next, you're going to describe what your solution is. What does it do for customers? What do you hope to find it helps people? But always answer the question, what does success look like? That is very important, because people are going to invest money in you. They're going to grant you a fund, and they want to know what it is they're going to pay for. give that solution, or even what you think the solution will be. Next, you dive in a little bit deeper in what your product, your technology, your research, whatever it is that you're doing. What is it? Why is it unique? Is already some research been done? Is who else is working on the same question? What skills would you need? Anything that's really important to give that audience, give some perspective on what it is that you're going to do or what you want to do. Next one is, who are you? Who's on your team? I see a lot of presentations, a lot of pitches, and at the end of every presentation, they put a picture of the team, and it's some Friday afternoon beers and burgers, and everyone's waving, and some goofy picture, and this is our team, and we're having really fun. That's nice, but if I invest in you and your team, if I want to give you a grant or give you a funding, I want to know, why is this team so good? What is it that makes this team a success? What are your relevant skills? What is the experience you have? What have you already achieved? This is all about credibility. That's why this is so important. It's even more important than going into detail about your technology. A pitch is actually really personal. People invest in you and your team. They believe that you can achieve what you want to achieve. That's what they want to believe. So really make sure to convince them of that. Ask them how much funding, how much money do you want? Don't be shy about it. And where does it get you? And beyond that, how much funds do you already have? Are there other funds? If you buy to portfolio or to private funds, does it fit in their portfolio or not? And why? Just ask. And if you don't ask, here in the Netherlands, we have something called Sinterklaas. I think everyone knows it as Santa Claus. And I call this the law of Santa Claus. If you want a present, ask for it, and ask for the right person, actually, because if you're not going to ask for it, you're not going to get it. So ask, be precise, and end your pitch with an end statement and a very clear call to action. Now, the full circle technique works this way. If you start with an example in the beginning, you refer at the end to that example. That makes it a round hole, a circle, a full circle. So your call to action, what is it that you want your audience to do? What is their first step? Tell them what you want. Let's take out our calendars and plan the next meeting. Or let's get back, well, whatever it is that you want them to do, be clear about it. So what change are you going to make to the world? What's the problem? What is your solution? What is it that you're going to do, your product, your technology, research? Who are you? Who's on your team, and why you're going to make this such a success? How much funding do you need? And give a clear and memorable call to action. That's the pitch outline. So we have a core message, we have a pitch outline. Let's dive in a little bit deeper. Oh yeah, and let's not forget, I already told you why you. Why are you the ones who are going to solve this problem? Why is it so important for you? And you can weave that through every little piece of part of that pitch. It's personal, like I said. So, body, voice, and slide. Let's start with the obvious one, slides. Bad slides. I think everyone's seen them. And the funny thing is that people always start with, when they start with, people tell me a lot of times, I always have to laugh about it a little bit. I'm sorry, I'll send you my presentation. And I'll ask them, oh, did you film your presentation? And they always look at me a little bit strange, like, no. Oh, you mean you're going to send your slide deck? Yeah. Well, a slide deck isn't a presentation. Slide software is developed to support your presentation, to support your story. That's why I don't start with slide design. I start with, what's your core message? What's your story? What's your pitch outline? If you have all those things, then you can figure out, okay, what slides, what images, what is it that I need to for my story to come across, right? I'll get this away. Very important. You're not the narrator of your slides. Slides are to support your story. So in slide design and in slide use, this is it. The one rule: visual stimuli always take precedence of auditory stimuli. Visual stimuli always take precedence of auditory stimuli. Now, what does this mean? Imagine you're at home with friends and you're having a really nice conversation, but the TV is on. It's a huge, big screen, and there's a lot of flashing and other stuff going on, some TV show. How hard is it to keep focus at the conversation? It's very hard. We can't do it. Our conscious brain is only able to do one thing at the same time, and it's not read and listen. We always look and read before we listen. So putting this sentence up, you first started reading it and then listening to me. I know this because that's what we do. So if you will, and why? We cannot read and listen at the same time. I know everyone wants to believe that we can multitask. Our conscious brain cannot. So if I put this up front, everyone now is going to look at, all right, this is a table. What's this table about? Hang on, it's X and Y. At the bottom, hey, that's weird. It's mean, variance, and correlation, but they're all the same numbers. But in the tables, it's wrong. What's going on? I want you to listen to me, not to read a table, right? So if you use a slide, let's get this horrible one away. So if you use a slide, make sure that, or you want to give people space to look at it, or it supports your story. So the second rule, think in messages, not topics. Again, slides are to support your story. So what happens when you're having a presentation? What happens to people who are listening to your presentation? What happens in their brain is they'll associate, they'll think about other stuff. And it's normal, it's human. That's what we do. That's what you guys are doing. And that's what I do, what everyone does. And then they'll think about a job or something which related to what you're saying, or maybe not at all. Anything can go around in those heads. And then at some point, they'll return back to your story and they'll look at your slide and just see at the top of the slide says topic 1. And they think, what are we talking about? But if it has a message, then they know exactly, all right, this is what we're talking about. It's a very powerful tool. It's harder than you think, but hey, you already have your pitch outline, so you can think about, all right, this slide here, and this is a message, and there you can create them and design them. Very simple design, a sentence headline that makes an assertion and some visual proof of that assertion. Basic stuff. Michael Alley he teaches at I think. It's not Princeton. No, it's a university. He wrote a book, The Scientific Presentations, and he came up with the assertion evidence approach of designing slides. This is one of them. So a message headline and an image that supports that assertion. That's it. Nothing more. That's basic slide design. If you have that correct, you can do all kinds of weird things with colors and stuff you're not supposed to do because that doesn't help, but you notice, right? So I had this entire big part about data visualization. This is another thing, Erica, we can talk about because that's a nice topic to talk about, right? A lot of stuff. So data visualization, there are a lot of things you can talk about or I can say about, but the most important things are choose the right graph, eliminate all clutter, and tell a story. This one is very easy. The two blue colors means that we don't invest enough money in that what kills us most. It's immediately clear for everyone who sees this image, this graph, and then we can talk again and you're starting listening to me again. You don't have to look at anything else. That is what makes it powerful and slide and data visualization. Again, this doesn't have that of great of a headline, but immediately you see the one that stands out pure by color usage. And again, this one is exactly the same. Right graph, remove clutter, anything that's not important, lines and legendas, make it as simple as possible because your audience, in one split second, they have to see, this is what it's about. Because you don't want to lose their attention. You don't want to lose the connection you have with them. The active voice. One of the most powerful tools you have as a presenter is your voice. And especially nowadays with the screen we're sitting behind. The biggest mistake I think you can make, and a lot of people do it because they don't know it, is being monotone. Why do we fall asleep? because everyone speaks at the same pace and with the same tone. And you just start speaking and everyone actually wants you to sleep and not listen to you anymore. Right? So no, an active voice means you have vocal variety. You change constantly in what you do with your voice, in your pitch, in your pace, in your volume. It's like telling a story, a children's story at nighttime when you're reading the story. That's how you use your voice. All those different shades and colors you can do, all those things you can do with your voice, that gives an active voice. And it keeps people's attention. Because as a presenter, that's one of the important tasks you have as a presenter is maintaining that connection. It's your responsibility that your audience can follow you and not the other way around. And your voice is very important to do that with. Of course, articulation, intonation. Sometimes silence works best. And operative words. Operative words are the words you put the emphasis on. Our brain, how does this work in our brain? Monotone means, tells our brain every word in a sentence is the same importance. So it builds up, it builds up, builds up, and then it gets some cognitive overload and everything, and your brain thinks, what's important? When you put emphasis on words, using operative words, it tells your brain, all right, those are the words that are important. The rest you can forget. It's a very powerful tool to use your voice with. Active voice. Nice stuff to do with. What do I say more about this? I think everyone knows this, seen this for the last year. I think more than a year ago, this would be an eye-opener for people. I don't think this is an eye-opener anymore, but still you can see it, the good way, the bad way. Some nice lighting, use it right angle. No one wants to look at your nose hairs or count them. Some weird backgrounds, stuff going on. All those things. And eye contact, trying to make eye contact. I'm using an Apple laptop, so my camera is right there. Exactly. So I try to look at the little green dot there. And then again, I see myself. So I twist like that. I think, oh no, I don't have to look there. I have to look there. It's really natural of doing that. So it's okay to shift between the camera and looking at the screen. But I also see people who have Dell computers and the camera is somewhere below the screen, at the bottom of the screen, which is, I think, some design error from Dell. So what you see is people always doing this, which is weird, right? And I have really bold hair, so no hair at all. So you don't want to look at that. So move it up and have some nice lighting to do. It's an easy, put an extra lamp there, and you have, get away with those shades. So, summary. A pitch is a starting point of a conversation. Be concise, choose your words wisely. You only have 750 words or something like that. Use it to pitch outline to create your pitch. And use an active voice, a good body, and one message slides. That's it for now.
Thank you very much, Marco. So now is the time to, if you have any questions, please go ahead. I was really, mesmerized, looking and trying to catch all the details. So my brain is a little bit empty, but maybe I can ask something to warm up. So what would be the essential, difference between research pitch and a pitch for an entrepreneur trying to get funding? Is there some, or is it the same, or
Yeah.
what would you say?
Sorry, my cats are making a fight right now. This happens on live meetings, right?
Well, these are the good things online, stuff happening,
happens.
kids running around. Go ahead.
So I mentioned it so we get away from that. The difference between research and investor, well, if you're an investor, you're going to start a company. So investors want to know market share, market value, how you're going to do your marketing, all those kinds of things. How are you going to start your company? Well, those kinds of, that's actually what you add when you're starting, when you start a company, or and ask them to invest in your company.
Yeah, so of course it would be sort of concentrated on the money,
No. It's about
more
trust.
okay.
It's about trust and credibility. Investors,
Hmm.
if they're going to give you €1 million, they want to know that they can trust you, that you can deal with that, and they get something in return, right?
That's a good point.
So it's about credibility. It's about accountability. They're not going to give you money because you have a great idea. That's nice. Lots of people have great ideas. Now, can you sell that idea? Is there even a market for that idea? And there are a lot of companies and a lot of good products. Well, I'm from way back from, I was born in 73, so I lived through the VCR period. And way back, we had the Video 2000 and VHS. And VHS was the lesser system, but the Video 2000 was from Philips, was the better system. But they lost. They couldn't sell it correctly. And that's what an investor is looking for. Can you sell it? Can we sell it? Is there a market for it, et cetera, et cetera? So that's really important in there.
Yes, the sharks, right?
Yeah.
Any questions? Go ahead if you have any.
Maybe I have a question, if I may, Marco.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's about maybe research presentations. So usually I notice that some researchers tends to put as many results as possible in the slides to show, that they work a lot, they have a lot of results, everything. And would you recommend to do it this way, or maybe put maybe fewer results but explain in more details, like to be clearer maybe?
Oh, you already see me laughing, right? I think you know the answer. All right, let's first make the difference between a presentation and a pitch, right? So the 5-minute pitch, I already told you, you only have a limited amount of time. So you have to be low in detail. It's not possible to have all the detail in there. And you're asking for money, so all the other stuff is more important than that. But if it's going about a presentation, let's say a 20-minute presentation, and that's the mistake a lot of scientists make, all those details and all those graphs and again and again. That's not a story, one. And it causes a cognitive overload. Our conscious mind can only comprehend so much information, and that's not a lot, I can tell you. Is that the right way to? No, it's absolutely the wrong way to do it. You have to step in the shoes of your audience. Why should they care? And think in advance, all right, what do I want to achieve? For a pitch, it's very clear. You want to go to the next meeting. But the other presentation is, what's my goal? What do I want my audience to do? So if I figured out that, then I can figure out, okay, what do they need to know so I achieve that goal? And that's not all the research I've done. No, it's all the specific parts of the research I've done. That will help them so I achieve my goal. I think any presentation that doesn't try to achieve a goal is a waste of time for everyone in preparation, in presenting, and in listening. It's a shame because if you it's 5 minutes work. It's not that much work, right? Just think of it in advance. What do I want to achieve? All right, I want my audience to agree with me, or I want to inform them, or whatever it is that you want them to do. And then think about, all right, what are the specific things they need? And as a writer, I know there's this, in writer's land, they have this thing called kill your darlings. So you write a story or a screenplay, and this really specific part, it's in there, and you really, really love it, and you put hours of time in it, and you really love it. And then you read it back, and you think, it's a great script, but my favorite part, if I skip it, if I put it out, it's going to be a better script. It's going to be a better book. That's kill your darlings. And it's the same with this. You create your presentation, and you think, I think this is what needs to be in there. But then step in the shoes of your audience, think why should they care, and then look at it again, and you try to figure out that probably 50% of your slides or information you could just leave out because it's not to the point.
Okay, thanks a lot for your answer. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Straight to the point. Thanks.
I have also an answer, Marco.
Yeah.
It's about a problem that maybe a lot of people that we are today here, we have, is when we are very shy and when when we have to talk in front of the people, we feel really, really scared. So do you have some advice for us?
Yes. Well, the most obvious one is practice a lot because practice makes perfect. That's the obvious. But if you don't have, if you don't do that, or it's not part of your job to do that, breathing is a very good one. Breathing from your belly, actually. Long, deep breath. You get a lot of oxygen in, and that really calms you down. And remember yourself that it's only the first minute, 2 minutes. It's those hormones spiking. It's cortisol and adrenaline, which is running through your body. That's what it does. I call it the amygdala hijack. What happens to everyone, and it happens to everyone. So it's not you. It's not everyone who's presenting happens it to. But it simmers down after a minute, after 2 minutes, and I've seen it by so many people who are afraid or anxious for presenting in the beginning, all the nerves, and then they just calm down and they think, oh, I know what I'm talking about. You know what you're talking about, right? It's your research, it's your project. The audience has no idea or a little bit of idea. So do the breathing and remind yourself, and if it's the first minute and 2 minutes, those 2 minutes you can prepare very well, right? You can write them out and learn them by heart and have all kinds of notes there, so you can have something to hold on to. All those things help perfectly to do. Does that answer your question a little bit?
Perfect. Now I have to practice, I think.
Yes, that's what happens. But I also teach and coach people who only have once a month or once a quarter a presentation, right? They work at a company and they have to give once a month an update. So they only give 4 or 5, 6 presentations a year, maybe. So you can practice for years and still have those same nerves. So you need something else. So it's the breathing, it's the notes, it's that.
Yes, I think there will be much more topics inside this this public speaking and to discuss with my.
Oh yeah, if you keep letting me speaking, I'll go on for the rest of the afternoon. So we'll see.
But maybe we can now give room to the other speakers. So thank you again, Marco. This was a great presentation. So Nicholas, please.
So yeah, now we have the honor to welcome Professor Julie Kerr-Conte from the University of Lille. So Professor Conte is a professor of cell therapy and cell biology in the medical faculty of Lille in France. She got a master's degree in the US at the University of Wisconsin about physiological chemistry. Then she moved to Europe in France in 1990 to set up an experimental lab in Lille and also got a PhD. And now she is professor at this university. She's members of different learned societies, European Association for the Study of Diabetes, also an International Pancreas and Islet Transplantation Association. Okay, so she became an expert, a recognized technical expert, and a faculty member of the network of islet cell transplantation in Europe. She published more than 200 papers on this field, and for the moment she's giving a training for the Doctoral School of Lille about the basics of public speaking, inspired from the book of Dale Carnegie, The Art of Public Speaking. And it's about this this topic. She's here with us today to give us some advices and some tips for that. So thank you again for your presence, Professor Kerr-Conte, and the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's see. Can you see my screen okay?
Yes, perfect.
Perfect, yes.
Okay, so I want to thank you very much for this invitation. In fact, you guys, it's a very dynamic society, and it's nice to see young people doing so many things. So it's my pleasure. It's also a pleasure to have met Marco, and I hope, Marco, I wish that I had taken your class before I I started doing this on my own. So I'm going to talk to you about Talk Like TED, the art of public speaking. So here we go. First, I would like to cite my sources. The book that Nicola just said, The Art of Public Speaking, that was first published in 1915 by Dale Carnegie, and also Talk Like TED, which was published more recently. And I think most of you know the TED videos. TED stands for Technology, Education, and Design. So everyone in the room has something in their pocket that can immensely help you improve your public speaking skills, and that's a video camera either on your phone or on your computer. And so the second little message that I want to give you is that people who genuinely are passionate about their topic make better public speakers. And so they inspire people, their audiences, in ways that non-passionate or low energy people do not. And when you're passionate about something, you can't stop yourself from thinking about it, from talking about it with others and acting on it. And so it's important to identify what your passion is. In fact, what makes your heart sing, as they say. And if it's possible to integrate this into your work, this would be fantastic. Why? Because true passion should be the subject of your communication. And you'll see, I'm going to ask you to do a little exercise later on. And Steve Jobs, in his 2005 commencement event, so in the States, and I think in the UK also, is when people graduate from the university, they invite some famous person to speak and to give a message. And so Steve Jobs' message, if you have not seen this, it's a fantastic video. He said, you've got to find what you love. And so he would agree with this, you got to find your passion. And he says that the work is going to fill a big part of our lives. And the only way to be truly satisfied with what we do, in fact, is to believe in our work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. And so don't settle if you haven't found it right away. Keep looking. And when you find it, you'll know that you found it. And so this is all what happens, even in fact, when you meet someone that you fall in love with. It's kind of the same thing. How do you know? Well, you know. I saw a documentary on TV. Maybe you guys know this young designer engineer woman. Her name is, she's French. Her name is Lucille Viau. She's very passionate about what she does. And what she does is she recycles waste, shells, sea plaster, sea glass, and makes really nice objects. In fact, so here you can see some glass. And in the documentary, they show you a little bit about this new type of glass that she was making from recycling these abalone shells that you can get in a specific area in France. And so in the documentary, there was this suspense because they didn't know exactly what color it would be, but in fact, it's still dark black, very chic. And so she's very passionate about what she does. And I don't know if this is something that you guys have run into, this person in your ceramic society, or maybe she already spoke, I don't know. And so I wanted to give you some homework, in fact, because as we said, practice makes perfect, no pain, no gain. And it would be to make a speech. So it can be the 5-minute pitch speech, or it can be a shorter speech. But I'd like you to pick a subject that makes your heart sing or that you're passionate about. It can be surfing. It can be, I don't know, dark chocolate, something that you really feel convictions about. And you prepare a 2-minute speech. And this is a little bit redundant with what Marco told us, but I'd like you to watch the video the first time and try to correct everything that you can see that you don't like about your body language, your facial expressions, your tics, your nervousness. And then redo the video and watch it again. And this time, work on this part that Marco was talking to about monotony, okay, your voice, varying everything we can do, the pitch, emphasizing words. And again, using this pause. Why? Because the pause, when you pause after an important word, Carnegie calls it pause and power. It gives power to the words. And so correct it again a second time and then watch it and concentrate now on the delivery. In fact, don't anticipate the phrases you're going to say in the slides that come up, but as Martin Luther King, you know, I have a dream. He was present in every single word of his presentation, and it's important. And try to apply force. to your speech. And so I've asked my students to do this, and some of them told me that they did the video 11 times. They kept correcting it before they were happy. And if you need more help, you can download this book, The Art of Public Speaking. It goes through every bit of the details of everything that was written on this slide. And I'm going to go quickly on this, but I want to emphasize also what Marco said, is that Dale Carnegie has what they call the 4 Ps. So he calls it, when you're going to present, you have to plan your presentation, prepare, practice, present. And what I want to just tell you is that 3 of these 4 Ps happen before you get up and present, in fact. So the death of a presentation is, in fact, both before and during. It's not just during. Most people think, oh, I did a terrible job. I had a bad day. No, it's also because it's more complicated than that. And so I'm not going to go through all of this, but when you do get invited or you do have a speech to give, a scientific presentation, you should ask yourself the question, who invited me? And what is my audience's interest? And Marco talked about this, and what's my purpose? And then design your speech around this. And I kept this slide in. I was thinking of getting rid of it, but because even people who have been in the field for years, when they get an invitation, they just pull out their old slides and they give the same presentation, and you cannot. After the presentation, if there are no questions, you know that it just flew over people's heads and they didn't follow you. And for example, if I'm going to talk to you about, Nicholas told me that I'm working in diabetes, and if I had to give a talk to the general public, I wouldn't talk about the human pancreas that you can see here, but I'd talk about the human pancreas that kind of looks like raisin bread. And what is diabetes? But diabetes is the irreversible destruction. It results from the irreversible destruction of these raisins, or the insulin positive secreting cells. And what we do in the lab is we do cell therapy, which would be to go and get organs from people who are healthy, to isolate these little cells, these little raisins, and then to transplant them in people that are injecting insulin. And so that's the technique that we've been doing now in France. A couple months ago, it was the authorities in France decided it would be reimbursed by the Social Security, so it will become standard care. And so my last big chunk of message is coming from this TED Talk like TED Talk, which is Carmine Gallo analyzed different TED Talks and said that the most engaging presentations involved 3 components: an emotional component, they touch my heart; a novel component, they teach me something new; and a memorable component, they present data or they present something in ways that you can never forget. And so we're going to look at that in more detail. And I put a little heart next to the heart and the brain next to the 2 brain ones. And so we're going to first focus on the emotional part. And so this is a great TED Talk video. In fact, this person, his name is Aimee Mullins. In fact, she was born without femurs, and so she was at birth was amputated, so double amputee. And she got a full paid scholarship to go to Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. And she always did some sports and decided that she wanted to try to run a race with these wooden and rubber legs that she had at the time. And she won the race. She was the record breaker of this Paralympics in 1996. And she explains the difference between Paralympics and Special Olympics. Special Olympics, Paralympic is there's some physical defect, and Special Olympics there's a mental deficiency. And so this speech is entitled "Changing My Legs and My Mindset." And 10 years later, she went on to make a video that has been viewed by more than 4.6 million people. And she says that the TED Talk that she did 10 years earlier was basically the launch pad for the next decade of her life. And so what happened basically is her appearance on TED started a conversation, in fact, that changed the way society looks at people with disabilities. And what happened after her first video, in fact, and it's really important, these TED Talks are seen by a lot of people, and people who act on the speeches afterwards also, is that innovators, designers, artists outside the traditional prosthetic medical community, contacted her and wanted to make legs for her. In the new video that she's made, she talks about her 12 pairs of legs. And they're just fantastic if you have time to look through the video. And so now she talks about that via this platform, this TED platform, it's no longer a conversation about overcoming deficiency. She talks about it's a conversation about potential. And disabled people can be architects of their own bodies, in fact. So it's pretty potent stuff. I want to talk to you back about what I'm doing as insulin, and in fact, this year marks the 100th anniversary of the discovery of insulin. And if I show you this image, it doesn't really evoke much. However, if I add a little photo, in fact, this touches your heart, because in diabetes, type 1 diabetes affects very young children most often, and insulin, of course, allows these people who are diabetic to remain, alive. But how can I say, and most of the patients that we treat, in fact, have been on insulin for 35 to 45 years. So here we have some empathy for this poor young girl who has to inject insulin at least 3 times a day herself. And I want to, in our laboratory, we do a lot of surgery for obesity in the clinical service here that's next, well, that's near our lab. And it's also a subject, in fact, to talk is, can we do this type of surgery in adolescence? And if I just give you this speech like this, it doesn't really touch much anybody. It's just data. But then if I add this little image here of Charles Dickens' The Fat Boy, The Pickwick Papers, you can see that there's some kind of empathy, in fact, that we have for this person. Everyone has known somebody who's been suffering from obesity, and it's a problem. I mean, I don't know if it's right or wrong to do surgery on these different people, but with this condition, but it's something that has to be. We need to find a solution. And I looked a bit in your domain of ceramics, and I thought it was some fascinating information about the oldest known ceramic figurine. In fact, it was discovered in the 1920s in the Czech Republic in this archaeological dig site. So it's the oldest ceramic sculpture known in the world. In fact, that's what I understood. You guys will correct me if it's not true. And the thing that fascinated me the most was is on the internet. When you look at this, in fact, they found a fingerprint on the back, in the fold on the back kind of shoulder of this statue, and immediately it was written that it was a fingerprint from a young adolescent or a child. And I thought, how could they calculate that? So I went and looked up the article, and I did the math. And in fact, it's exactly, you end up at 11 years, 11.3 years. And because the precision is plus or minus 4 years, that's how they got to have the 7 to 15 years. And they talk about the shrinking. In fact, the shrinking, the fingerprint was put there before it was dried and cooked, in fact, if I understood correctly. So that it opens up a door, kind of a story behind this whole thing. Already just seeing the figurine does. Is it, seeing the body shape, is this, what is that, what did that mean back then? And now that there's this they found a fingerprint, it's intriguing, in fact. So Aristotle, you guys know, the Greek philosopher, was the first to suggest that persuasion, because sometimes when we go and give speeches, we want to persuade people. And this comes through having three components. One is ethos, the credibility, achievements, titles, experience. So Marcos mentioned a bit about this. Logos, which is what a lot of we do in science, persuasion through logic, data, statistics, p-values, and also persuasion through pathos, the act of appealing to emotions or storytelling. If we look at this TED Talk, in fact, by Brian Stevenson, which got the longest standing ovation in the history of TED Talks, what they did is they dissected out the different components: ethos, logos, pathos. And what's interesting is only 10% of his talk was about achievements, titles, 25% about persuasion through data, statistics, and 65% of his speech, which was extremely successful, was based on this storytelling, appealing to emotions. And so it'd be interesting for us, this is your second little line of homework, is to pull out an old slide presentation that you did and try to estimate, in fact, these three different components, in fact, put them in categories. How does your pathos stand up against the rest? And if I look at some of the speeches that I've done in the past, I could tell you there's probably 10% ethos, 90, about say 80% logos, persuasion through data, p-values, and very little pathos. And so how can we add pathos to our scientific presentations? How can we increase our emotional appeal? And what they suggest that we do is we add stories, images, anecdotes, personal insights. And so I want to share with you an experience that I had in 2019 that made me think differently about my research in the field of diabetes. My husband, in fact, François Patou is my husband. He's a surgeon and the director of our lab. He was invited to give a speech at this IDF, that's called International Diabetes Federation, on cell therapy for severe forms of diabetes. And it was great because it was in Busan, South Korea, and I thought it would be a great opportunity to, visit this place also in addition to going to the conference. And so the day that the presentation came around, it was a huge amphitheater. As you can see here, there were two screens for the slides. There were two video screens for here he is down here on the floor. And so it was really a big venue. He did a great job. He's an amazing public speaker. And at the end, the questions came around. And so there were a few questions. And what really left a lasting impression on me was two people in traditional dress stood up, and both of them asked questions. They introduced themselves as clinicians, one from Ethiopia, one from India. And one asked how much this cell therapy that was so impressive, how much it cost. And unfortunately, I can tell you guys it's over 100,000 euro per patient that gets it. And how could their patients get access to this technology in the future? Could they travel to Europe? Could they collaborate? Could we collaborate together? And it was not easy to answer this question. And all of a sudden, after this fantastic speech, an uncomfortable feeling kind of injustice filled the room. And these spectacular clinical results that we have in Lille of the transplantation, the cell transplantation that we do, kind of vanished, and I realized they were reserved for a very select few privileged patients in rich countries. And they were right. A cure for diabetes should be cheap. It should be accessible to all people. And so I've integrated this now into my research, and I just got funded for a 3-year PhD student to work on a cheap option for curing type 1 diabetes. And so I'm excited about that. So what about this, the next part here? How can we, add novelty, teach people something new, something memorable that they'll never forget? And I want to give you some examples of, for example, there's a fantastic video on a statistic presentation by a Swedish professor. In fact, he says he's one of the rock stars, and you really should watch this video. It dates to from 2006, but it's a really a great video, and he talks about the progression of life expectancy here on the Y scale versus family size in different countries over time. So it's very interactive. The guy really gets into it, and it's fantastic. And so it's entitled "The Best Stats You've Ever Seen." And what he says is that the best ideas will fail to inspire an audience if they're not packaged effectively. And this guy really does a great job. And someone else who has done a great TED Talk also, Chris Jordan, is an artist, and he does different, how can I say, paintings or photos on things that are important to him. And so if you take a close look at this image here, you can't really tell what it is exactly, but it kind of looks like tubings and stuff like that. And when you zoom in, what you can see is they're plastic cups. And what he says here is 1 million plastic cups are used on commercial airlines every 6 hours in the United States. And then he goes on to talking about paper cups, mainly used for drinking coffee in the United States. 40 million paper cups are used per day in the United States. Here we have a zoomed out image of the paper cups that are stacked here all up. And we have a little two people down here to give you an idea of the scale. And what he's shown us here is 1 hour of paper cup consumption in the United States. And then he goes on to show us, here the people are down here, you can barely see them, and the Statue of Liberty, and this is 1 day of paper cup consumption. And so he transforms dry statistics into visuals and brings the data alive, in fact. And it's really impressive. And I think we can be inspired by this and try to also, you know, transform some of our statistics of, you know, for example, the number of diabetic people we have, or you guys have your own subjects, but it would be interesting to think about this and to try to, you know, have a visual that would represent this. Can we also, we can try to create what they call a holy smoke moment, or it's, oh my goodness, in English also. It's the first thing that people remember about your presentation and the first thing they say to someone else who didn't see it. And this, this neuroscientist working in Boston, her name is Jill Taylor, did a TED Talk on my stroke of insight. So she is a specialist of the brain. And she talks about, she was one day in the morning home at her house, getting ready to go to work, and she started having symptoms of something strange, and she goes through the symptoms, and she was having a stroke. And during her talking about this, some person comes out on the stage with this box, this transparent box, and she puts on immediately gloves and pulls out this human brain, in fact, and goes into all of the details about, you know, the different parts of it. Oh, sorry. And so that's a great video. And there's also a great TED Talk on Bill Gates. In fact, he's on stage with this jar of something, and he's giving a talk on malaria. And so it's kind of in the middle of the talk, he decides that he's going to open the jar, in fact. And what he says is that there's no reason only poor people can have the experience of malaria or living with malaria. So in fact, then he goes on to tell people that the mosquitoes in the jar were not infected. But it's what we call a prop. And sometimes we can also, you know, bring props on to our, you know, and add them to our presentations when we're especially presenting live. And so lastly, I just want to talk about painting or trying to paint a mental picture with multisensory experiences. And Marco talked about this a bit, but the statistics are that we retain 10% of information 3 days later after we heard something. And if you add a picture, your recall goes to 65%. And because we're wired to process visual information. And so François Patou was giving a speech on the patients, in fact. In Lille, we do a lot of clinical trials, and the patients who agree, in fact, to participate in these clinical trials. It's kind of like the astronauts, in fact, that went to the moon, basically, and the goal was to go to the moon. And when you go to Cape Canaveral in Florida and look at this little machine that, in fact, is a replicate of, you know, what was on the moon at the time, and never would you think that you just press a button and say to Houston, I want to come back now, can you come and can you send me back? So they took risks, and the patients in our clinical trials take risks, and they do it for a bigger, you know, for the disease. They do it for themselves sometimes, but also for the disease itself. And so it's a great mental image to take with us, thinking about these patients. And I gave you the link here if you want to watch the real speech. It's memorable. And so to conclude, I want to conclude with a Dale Carnegie phrase. Public speaking is not a matter of externals. It's not a matter of imitation or conformity to standards. Public speaking is public utterance, of the man or the woman himself, a projection, in fact. Unless there is something of value within, no tricks of training can ever make the talker anything but a machine. So self-development is fundamental. And so finding our passion, identifying it, integrating it into our work, and communicating on our passion, adding pathos, in fact, emotions, stories to our very data-heavy, statistics-driven, logos-heavy presentations. Teach people something new. Try to read outside of your field for ideas, to be inspired. be creative, present content in unforgettable, memorable ways. And lastly, use your video camera to improve your speaking skills. So I just want to thank the YCN. I want to thank François Patou for some of the ideas that he gave me and that I've stolen from his speeches, and also the tips that are coming from these two books, and also for the doctoral college in Lille that gave Nicolas the idea that allowed me to do this talk like TED for other doctoral students, and gave Nicolas the opportunity to see this and to invite me to this conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Kerr-Conte, and congratulations for your findings also. We hope it will bring some new research ideas and new way of healing people. Thanks a lot for your presentation and your time. I don't know if there is any questions among the audience in the chat or with YCN members or panelists.
Yes, go ahead with the questions. Again, so mesmerizing, trying to catch details very much.
It's information overload.
Only 10%.
Yeah, let's see, 10% or 65. Let's see.
You know what though? I'm passionate. Yeah, I'm passionate about seeing students progress though. I mean, there's nothing better than when you work with a student. I mean, I've seen this one person sent me a presentation. It was 30 minutes long, and I wrote him back. It is so low energy. I mean, it's impossible. And so he did it again, and now he's done it 3 times. And we have a little jury here on June 1st. And so the students in this Talk Like TED class will present their little pitch. Well, it's not a pitch, but it's a presentation that they're doing on what they're passionate about. And I see the progress that the students have, and it's really it's a work in progress. I mean, even for people who are established scientists, you know, you go to a museum, it gives you ideas. We need to constantly be looking around for how people present stuff and see if we can integrate it into our own subjects. You know, it's a fascinating. It's a real fun thing to do too. It's a great opportunity to be invited to present, and I think that it's fun to prepare and to try to find something that'll change and not just say we don't just give boring presentations. So we can maybe do the round table, no, if there's no questions.
Yeah, actually, I may have a question. You're talking about passion in talks, but sometimes you have to present something that you are not passionate. So, what will be your advice to still make a good presentation, but without this passion? You know, like maybe like I don't know, like acting, like you are passionate about it, but.
Well, I think, you know, they say a good student can be interested in any subject. And I think it's the same for anyone who's curious. I mean, really this, maybe I insulted you guys by showing the little figurine, but I mean, this is probably something you guys learn in the first day in your different classes. I don't know, but it's like 101, we would say in the States. Even this, you know, if I looked into it, I read the paper, I had to sign up for the special website in order to get the article in Anthropologica or something, some journal like that. And I did the calculations. I mean, it's really you learn something every time. You know, I figured, how could they calculate the size when it's all shrunk down? I mean, anyway, and so you go through the calculations. The formula is pretty straightforward. I think you can have a little bit of inspiration and a little bit of passion for subjects that if you really spend a little time looking into them, that on a first view may seem boring and uninteresting, you know? So I think we need to work at it a little bit and let our curiosity you know, go crazy. It's in our imagination.
Yeah. Okay, so curiosity and imagination. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just see we have a question. So thank you for the presentation. I am making videos myself, and when I'm editing them, I notice that when I had to say something second or third time, there is less and less passion and energy. Do you have any tips, or is it just about practice, losing this passion?
I personally would suggest that you don't try to do it in one shot. You know, you do one video, you go and smoke a cigarette, or I don't know, go running, or I don't know what people do, and give yourself a little bit of time, because it's after a while it gets frustrating, and we kind of lose patience. I agree, but it should be something that you shouldn't try to do, you know, even if it's a short video, you should not try to do the 3 videos in, you know, 1 hour or
Straight.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need to breathe. You could show it to other people, see what they think, and there's no rush, basically. It's something you can also, when you're relaxed, you can, even at your house, you can look at it and, oh, I didn't see that, or, you know, it's a work in progress. Constantly, we'll never, you know, achieve perfection. And I know these TED Talks, if you look into it, it takes people 6 to 9 months to make them. They look like they're natural. I mean, who here has worked on a talk for 6 to 9 months? Imagine how good we would be. So you need to be patient, yes, but don't try to overload your system. You know, you just go at it a little bit at a time. Oh, you guys are seeing,
thank you.
you're seeing my screen. You're seeing my screen now of the California residence.
Yes, it's quite nice.
It's a photo. It's a famous photo. Okay.
So if I can have one more comment at the end, a lot of information. Thank you for the nice presentation. I think that we all learned a lot, but I need to say that like one like highlighted situation happened for me when Marco said about the background, make the background like nice. And I was like just like checking where all the backgrounds that I had and everything, and actually it's very important, but we maybe do not think so much about it. So I was like just like anxious about my background now and the last one that I had.
Yeah, the problem is on Mac is if you're not, I can't change my background because I have to upgrade the computer, and then I have to change all of the licenses for the computer. So some people cannot do the background thing because they don't have the latest system, you know. But you're allowed, you can do it, so that's great.
And it depends a little bit on, I'm on a Mac too, so it only has a few options to do that. And it has this weird thing around your head, right? Where it depends on what the background is. So if you're using an artificial background, it also depends on what the real background is. So like me in the background, it's a real background, by the way. There's a lot of stuff going on, and somehow the software can't figure it out. So it creates a very strange halo. So if you have a neutral background, actually like a neutral wall or any color, then it's very easier for the system, for the software to create a digital background. At least that's what I found out in Teams and all those kinds of software. And they all work a little bit the same, but also different, you know?
Yeah, I left my background just because I'm in a research lab, and I figured, as we say in America, c'est la vie. It's my life anyway.
Suits well for this audience anyway.
But Julie, you wear the part, you know, you have the coat on, and it's like, oh wow, yeah, she's really in the lab, you know.
Yeah, I'm a lab rat. Yeah. Perfect.
We all are, I think.
Yes, Nick, we are all dreaming about that.
So I have a question for you guys. How are you going to do your pitches? I mean, are you going to, you have this big event, you're going to practice, but are you helped by each other, or just each person is going to work alone, or how does it really work?
Well, that's a good question. This is how we try to sort of give help from the community side, but everybody has to work on their own, I think. But
Okay.
of course, you know, if they can work together also, I think that's a good idea to have a friend and show the video so you can get some comments and some feedback.
Mm-hmm.
I think this webinar will help a lot of people also. It's recorded, so we will share also with the community, especially your homeworks. Julie, I think will help some people to improve their thesis. So thank you again.
You're welcome. Okay.
Yes. With these words, I think it's time to conclude this webinar. So I really like to thank again all the speakers, Marco and Julie. I'd like to thank all participants. So it was a great fun for us. I hope it was as much fun for you too. So please join us for the pitching event. Come and test your skills and try to improve in this field. And hope you have a great day. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye bye.